Afternoon to those of you who have joined us. We are going to go ahead and get started with my housekeeping spiel just to be sure we have plenty of time to answer any questions that you guys may have. So thank you for joining us for today's Illinois Apex Accelerator with our director, Kelly. Before I hand it over to Kelly, just a few quick things. You are welcome to ask questions. We just ask that you submit those via the chat box down in your Zoom toolbar, and we will answer those before we close out the session. And you will also receive a follow-up email tomorrow morning, and that will include both a link to the recording along with a PDF version of Kelly's PowerPoint, so that if there's any live links that you want to visit or any of the information that Kelly has shared, you will have access to do that. In that follow-up email, I will also include both the link to register as a client if you'd like to work one-on-one with our center or another Apex here in the state of Illinois, along with our events calendar. So you can join us for any of our other no-cost training sessions. So I will hand it over to Kelly and we can get started.
Thank you very much, Jordan, and welcome to all that have joined us today for the Mentor-Protégé Program webinar. I'm Keli Krueger-Huhra, and I'm the director of the Illinois Apex Accelerator at the Champaign County EDC. And just to let you know, a brief introduction to the Apex Accelerators, if you've not worked with one before, we are a nationwide organization, and we are part of a national organization referred to as NAPEX. And we are very appreciative of the support of the Department of Defense and the Champaign County EDC, our host, as well as our partners with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana and the University of Illinois system. And we are here to be the front door for businesses that want to do government contracting. And we will assist you in pursuing and performing under those contracts, whether it be with the Department of Defense, other federal agencies, or working with state and local governments, which we support all, and also government prime contractors. And we want to work with networking opportunities as well as one-on-one counseling and webinars as you're participating in today to help make more business opportunities with the government supply chain. And this is just an idea of the services that we do provide in brief. Some of the specifics on reading and understanding government bids and proposals, preparing bids and proposals, finding market research and targeting market strategies to be able to pursue those government contracts, certifications, helping you bid and also prepare for pre-bid conferences and other internet-based bid opportunities, and also post-award and contract administration. And you'll see on the right side some of the statistics of how our clients have achieved success in government contracting and creating jobs and retaining jobs and building the economic opportunities in the state of Illinois. And as Jordan said, you will get these slides, and this is a listing of the centers that are in the state of Illinois. And if you are outside of the McLean and Champaign County part of Central Illinois and you want to touch base with another Apex Accelerator in your region, you'll have the opportunity to review this list with the slides. So let's get started. There's a lot to cover today. So you may be going back over these for an additional understanding, but if I go fast, that's the reason why, because we have a lot to cover. So let's start with some background. Basically, we're talking about Mentor-Protégé in general here. In 1998, the 8A program was established, and the reason that's significant is because the original Mentor-Protégé programs were an 8A Mentor-Protégé program, but the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010 and the National Defense Authorization Act, which we are fortunate to have fund the Apex Accelerators each year. But in the year of fiscal year 2013, they provided the authority for the SBA to establish Mentor-Protégé programs for all small businesses. And so at that point, rather than looking at creating separate programs, as we had the 8A as a separate program for the other set-aside markets, they decided to go ahead and create a single program for sorry about that, create a single program referred to as an all-inclusive mentor-protege program known as the All Small Mentor-Protege Program in 2016. In 2020, the Mentor-Protege program officially folded in the previous version of the 8A, so now all participants are part of the All Small Mentor-Protege program. So a business development agreement with one business provides another business with developmental assistance with the blessing of a federal agency is how we define a mentor-protege program. Mentor-protege programs are the government's answer to coaching and bootstrapping small businesses to be successful in the federal and military procurement, acquisition, and contracting arena. Achieved by encouraging large businesses to partner with small businesses for 1 to 3 years under a federal agency approved mentoring program. And we'll talk about that there are more than one available to you. So contracting officers frequently look at bids and disqualify those when you've got a small business that has a large business as a tier 1. They look at those as the small business potentially not having the bulk of the value in the contract because of the capacity and the capability of the large business. And when you have an ostensible subcontractor provision out there, that disqualifies that it is a small business and a large business that is not really deeply connected together to where it doesn't benefit the small business as is intended to do in a set aside. So a small business submits a bid with its mentor as a tier 1. That is a big difference to a contracting officer. Contracting officer sees that as a small business, large business team versus the large business having the lion's share over the small business when they quote as a subcontractor in the large business, small business. And so the agency blesses a mentor-protege program. It's pre-approved in that way. So the contracting officers see that participation by that host agency and considers that the risk is much smaller by the mentor's obligation that they've made in establishing that agreement to support and back up that protege in performing the contract. So they see that arrangement completely different and more positive than what could be considered an ostensible subcontractor, which is referred to in the FAR. And so professional assets, skill sets, quality assurance, et cetera, in some cases, financial support, and we'll talk about that as one of the opportunities in a mentor-protege agreement. That is all seen as a positive to those contracting officers and to those bids that are submitted in that way by a mentor-protege. So the first one we're going to talk about is the SBA All Small Mentor-Protege. And basically, when they consolidated the programs together, you have these results that came out of that. Facility security clearances, which can be challenging to get. They're not required for a joint venture if both partners have a clearance. Mentors cannot submit competing offers. Okay, so you're not going to compete directly with your protege. No more than 40% equity from a mentor. So that's one of the things we'll talk about as well. If bringing in equity is one of the things that's important to you in your business growth, you can have a mentor take up to 40% share of your business. No more, but up to 40%. And facility security officers may be administrative personnel. The SBA in their All Small Mentor-Protege also realized that you have a limited number of mentors that you can have. So if that relationship is not doing what it was intended to do, if the mentor is not supporting you in the way that was established to be facilitated, if the relationship does not go as planned, there can be termination of that without penalty of not being able to have those additional mentors that will work better for you. Proteges from Puerto Rico may have up to 5 mentor-protege agreements, and joint ventures may receive unlimited contracts in a 2-year period. Previous to that, there was a 3 and 2 rule, meaning you could have, as a joint venture, 3 contracts in a 2-year period. Now it's just however many contracts that you could bid on as a joint venture in a 2-year period. So to be eligible to be a mentor in the SBA Mentor-Protégé program, a contractor must meet the following criteria: be for profit, capable of carrying out those responsibilities that are set up by the Mentor-Protégé agreement for that protege firm. You can impart value through your lessons learned. You've been there, you've done that, your practical experience gained, and through your knowledge of general business operations and government contracting. They are going to look for you to possess good character, cannot be debarred. You cannot currently be a government contractor and have been debarred or suspended. And generally, the mentor family of companies, so if you have other affiliates within your group, cannot have more than 3 current mentors. Okay, so now to be eligible as the following criteria to qualify as small if you want to be a mentor. If for a primary NAICS code standard or the secondary NAICS code size standard, if you identify seeking business development assistance in your secondary NAICS code. So you must be primary in your primary code, you must be small. But if you're identifying your secondary code for help, assistance as a protege, you must be small there. Demonstrate how the mentor-protege relationship will help it further develop or expand current capabilities in that secondary NAICS code and have prior experience in that code. So it's not aspirational. It must be a code that you're currently working in and have experience with previous contracts in. You can self-certify as small for primary or secondary NAICS code. Do that by the table of size standards that SBA has. You cannot have another mentor except SBA may approve a second mentor where a second mentor relationship is in an unrelated NAICS code. So you're not going to have 2 in the same NAICS code. Protege seeks specific expertise that your first mentor doesn't have. And then not already had 2 mentors under the SBA Small Business Mentor Program. Okay, so as a protege, be a small business, need to have industry experience, need to have identified a mentor before an application under the All Small Mentor Protege and registered in SAM.gov. As a mentor, you can be small or large under a primary or secondary NAICS code, and you need to have industry experience. Again, that's going to be drawn on by the protege. Need to possess good character, cannot be disbarred or suspended from doing government contracting, and you too must be registered in SAM.gov. Okay, so both need to be for profit and no affiliation between the mentor and protege at the time of the application. Okay, so why would a large business consider doing this? And what is in it for them? Well, the ability to legally bid on small business set-asides through its protege. So if you as a protege have one of those set-aside services, able veteran, women-owned, 8A, hub zone, large businesses cannot participate when a solicitation is set aside. If they are in a mentor-protege agreement with you, and that goes to a joint venture then is able to have the status that you have as a small business. That large business would not be able to bid were it not for that relationship. You can utilize the protege for required subcontracting credits. If you have a contract over $750,000, you'll have a subcontracting plan as a prime contractor. Proteges can be used for subcontracting credits. Strengthens a given proposal above and beyond your typical teaming partners. Goes back to where we started about the way that contracting officers look at those bids that come in a more favorable way. Substantial public relations and favoritism as government wishes for MPs, mentor proteges to be successful. Relaxed contracting standards. The affiliation clauses are virtually eliminated that influence that the small business the influence of the large business over the small business and any sharing of resources there, that's virtually eliminated. Large business can bond small businesses, very helpful for a small business. Bonding can be an obstacle when it comes to government contracting. So it's a huge advantage if you're a small business and you can have that large business supporting your bonding requirements. Large businesses, again, can now participate in sole source set-asides, and contract officials are much more comfortable awarding large contracts to an agency-approved, government-approved, pre-qualified mentor-protege team. Again, they're risk-averse, and it mitigates the perceived risk. So, starting at the bottom, you see the business development. We'll define that as a protege receiving guidance from the mentor. Okay, establishing what can help them, whether it be backroom, etc., can help them grow in their business, and from the protege, and the mentor then is willing to support that. And then the protege performs on contracts for the mentor, subcontracting. Then you're starting to look, it's almost like dating before a marriage. You're starting to work together. You're starting to understand, is there a good relationship? Is there a good working synergy between the proposed protege and proposed mentor as they're performing on contracts together? And then if that relationship is going well, you form your mentor-protege agreement through, in this case, the SBA. Then the next step of a mentor-protege agreement is to actually go into a joint venture. Okay, so that joint venture, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then that's where you qualify as a small business, the two of you together. You can take then whatever certification that the small business has, and the joint venture can then have that as well. And then two or more companies partner for a specific requirement in a teaming agreement. Okay, what it is not is a form of teaming relationship. There's no such thing as mentor-protegeing for a contract opportunity. A mentor-protege agreement does not itself create a joint venture or a prime subcontractor team or any other form of teaming relationship. A true mentor-protege agreement is just that, the mentor supporting the needs that are set up by the protege to help them develop in the business that they're working in. Mentor and protege may, but need not avail themselves of special teaming benefits while the mentor-protege agreement is active. An exception to the ordinary limitations of subcontracting, a mentor cannot serve as a pass-through or perform more work than any other subcontractor. So again, you're falling under the rules of subcontracting, as far as particularly if it's a set-aside, to make sure that the business that's intended to go to, that has the status, is getting their proper share of the value of that contract. So what are the benefits to the protege? It's free. So thorough needs assessment. Mentoring activities, you set up a plan, the capabilities, and the capacity that you need through the growth of the training, instruction, expertise, and knowledge you can gain from that mentor. Again, financing and bonding, if they can help you get greater capacity in bonding, or the potential to take equity in the firm, helping them with some financing, maybe helping them with some financial literacy things, invoicing, etc., that can be useful to their business, again, in the intent in helping them grow. Subcontracts directly with the mentor can be done by the protege, and the mentor fleshes out and adds capability to the protege primed bids to bid independently. Subcontract and prime opportunities, continued benefit to the protege, get military, federal IDIQ past performance, building business-to-business credibility. They're champions for you. And the mentor-protege is non-exclusive. You can have other teaming arrangements with other mentors and other agencies in this case. So support from the mentors, basically management and technical assistance. They get financial assistance. They could provide contracting assistance. Maybe you would like to learn from them how to do bids, and international trade education. Potentially they're exporters, and that would be of interest to you. business development assistance, and administrative assistance. Okay, so what do those overall groupings look like? So internal business management, accounting, marketing, manufacturing, strategic planning, financial assistance, again, equity, investments, loans, bonding, navigating those subcontracts and federal contracts through the acquisition process, the bidding, the contract administration, contract closeout, all important aspects and some things that you might be able to learn from a mentor. Okay. HR and accounting systems, guidance in core business processes, assistance in building out your corporate structure, your capability and capacity. And maybe there are some tools that can be recommended for you, business tools, process tools that can, again, help you develop your business, make your business more efficient. In general administrative, constructing techniques, approaches, and strategies. Maybe you're looking at help to manage teams, bring on board employees, support bids, and create contract deliverables. And really, maybe you need help in creating an onboarding process. How do you train your employees, SOPs, etc. Selecting communications tools. How does the team communicate? How do you maybe improve that corporate communication and security clearance facilitation and support? Guiding in near and long-term business development, marketing, networking, creating a proposal development capability, helping you create a template to respond to proposals, education about expanding to new target markets, whether they be domestic or, again, from an exporting standpoint. Guidance and support for contract agreements, legal documents. Maybe they have some templates that they've developed over the years that could be very helpful for you. Compliant filing structures, recommending appropriate tools to match the type of contracts, and then financially equity investment and or loans. So benefits to the mentor, tipping the scale to win set-aside bids. In non-SBA mentor-protege partnerships, help the protege win small bid RFPs in a tier 1 role. Check the mandated diversity supplier subcontracting box and build small business support reputations within the government acquisition community. Okay, so the protege is developing business to expand capacity, tailored technical assistance. That's one thing that's going to be very important in the mentor-protege agreement. In that template, you'll need to tell the SBA, what are you asking for that mentor to do for you? Specifically, what kind of assistance? Because when you're going to hold the mentor to the agreement, what have you asked them to do, and are they providing that for you? And again, winning subcontracts can be huge from the mentor as the prime. The protege can serve as a value-added member of the mentor's supply chain. The mentor might have access to small business set-asides through the JV. Now, that JV is considered a small business. In fact, that JV going to that level, which many mentor-protege programs are established with that intent, that entity is its own entity. It registers in SAM. It carries the certifications of the protege, and the JV carries the past performance of the mentor and the protege, which is huge many times for the protege to be able to use that past performance of the mentor in that bid. So to be a small business must have the following: to be in the program, for profit. Again, they're looking up front that there is no affiliation between the mentor and the protege. Small on your NAICS codes. Mentor is selected before applying. Very important. No more than 2 mentors at a time, and no more than 2 mentors in a lifetime. No more than 3 proteges at one time if you are a mentor, and may last up to 6 years from the date that the SBA approves it. So the question I get asked most often is, how do I find a mentor? Where do I want to go as a company? Let's start by asking questions about yourself and your own company. What strengths are we looking for in a company? Again, when you're going to have to define what are you looking for, what you're looking for, is that a good fit to learn from the mentor? Where do we feel we can benefit from a company helping us? Which agencies do we want to work in? So if you want to work in a specific agency, that is your target market, then looking for mentors that are already involved with that agency would be a great place to start. That's where you want to get more situated with them. Here's somebody that can help you do that because they've got the right contacts already established. Do you want to work with a small business, a medium-sized business, or a large business? Again, a mentor can be any of those three. If you want to work with a small business, which socioeconomic certifications are you looking for? Are we looking for similar capabilities or complementary capabilities? Do we want the other company to be in the same geographic area as us? Can be very important when you're working face to face. Do we need in-house or staffing? Do we want to do cleared work? How has the other company won their business? Again, in your market research, what are you finding? How are they winning business? What type of contracts are they getting with the agencies? So, say you've targeted mentors and you want to talk with them. What should you be looking for when you talk to them? A cultural fit. Is there are there team members, ones that you could work with? Are there leaders, one that have a very similar philosophy in doing business that you have? So when you feel comfortable with commonality of goals, are your companies going in the same direction? Do you feel like there's a desire there to work together? Yeah, it's almost a dating scenario. Working with them, building that relationship is very important before going to the table with, we'd like you to be a mentor for us, and just how that relationship would work. Just think about the long term there. So if you've answered those questions, now how do you find a mentor? Start with the companies that you know. Again, it's easier to start with someone you have a relationship with. That would be the first thing. Is that relationship growing? Is it positive? Then again, look at the agency spend reports. You're targeting an agency, finding those companies that are currently working with that agency, and then look at where they are from a size standpoint. Do they fit the direction that you want this mentor protege to go? Look to see how they've won their work and check to see if they already have a mentor protege relationship in place. So the signal advantage of the SBA All Small Mentor Protege program is that of the joint venture. And generally speaking, when a mentor agrees to do this, that is the end game that they're looking at, which combines that small business protege's preferential contracting designation and the large business mentor's capabilities, past performance, again, very important, and financial credentials. And that in that entity, then they can pursue and win bids, thereby steamrolling, so to speak, small business competitors on that set aside opportunity again, because all the backing that you now have from the mentor, those small businesses that are not part of a mentor protege JV are not as fortunate, and on large unrestricted bids, the JV will score points with the contracting officer because the large business competitor has fully integrated in that program a small business teammate. So what does it look like? You have the SBA approved mentors. So you started out with a mentor protege agreement approved through the SBA, and then they can become a joint venture. Now, this joint venture is what they call unpopulated. And unpopulated means there's no employees in that joint venture. Okay. The employees are with the mentor and with the protege, although the joint venture is its own entity registered in SAM. There are no, generally speaking, no employees working in that. Large corporations' capabilities and past performance is an advantage for the joint venture. And the program went into effect with the fiscal year 17 under the SBA Mentor Protege Office. Okay, so that is formed and it must be incorporated as an LLC. So it's joint venture LLC. It can be in any state registered in SAM. and thus permitting it to bid and win contracts as a joint venture. Joint venture does not actually perform anything. It has no employees, and you divide the contract work between the protege and the mentor and draw payments from the joint venture then to compensate to that work based on how that work is divided. And in that way, both companies respectively enhance their past performance records, and it looks to be a total win-win. Okay, the MPA, Mentor-Protégé Agreement approval is required prior to the JV bidding on an award. So that's step one. Designate the protege as a managing venturer. So when you set up the LLC, it is the protege that is the managing venturer and an employee from the protege as the project manager responsible for the contract. State the protege owns at least 51% of the joint venture entity. Protege must perform 40% of work by the joint venture and 40% of the aggregate performed by members of the joint venture at any tier. So if you are looking to bid on a contract as a joint venture, and a significant part of that may be subcontractor outsource, then you need to look at that 40% of the aggregate performed by the members as the benchmark there. The mentor can perform up to 60% of the work by the joint venture and receive profits commensurate with the percent of work performed. Procuring activities must consider past performance individually by each partner to the joint venture, as well as any work done by the joint venture itself. Big advantage there. So what does the mentor-protege joint venture look like? So a joint venture involves forming a separate entity owned by the protege and the mentor, personnel, capabilities, and resources of both firms. Okay, this can provide that distinct advantage, taking on whatever socioeconomic certification that the protege has. Combines the past performance again. It lasts for 2 years, beginning with the date of the first award. So not when you submit the agreement, but when you get your first contract as a mentor-protege joint venture. And if it's an 8A that is involved in the joint venture, the SBA district office must approve that before it receives an 8A sole source award. So only the 8A needs approval by the SBA district office to proceed. So thinking ahead, thinking that you are a potential protege that has found a potential mentor or vice versa, you would select your mentor, register in SAM. There is a SBA database that you would apply through, and it could take about 105 days. And this just lines up 15 days for screening, 90 days for processing. And then you have to remain responsive because just like everything else that we see in SAM, when you apply for a certification, they will review. They will send you questions and ask for clarifications, and you have a very short window to respond on that. So suggested, check your inbox and react accordingly. Okay, so the SBA provides a template as a starting point, and there is the link where you can find that template. You have to follow the template exactly, and then mentors and proteges provide detailed information about the nature and the extent of assistance to be provided. The SBA basically is looking for the what, when, and how. What does the protege need help with? What assistance can the mentor's actions provide? What kind of a timeline are you looking at? Number of hours in annual increments that the mentor would be providing to you, and a metric or multiple metrics. How are you going to measure each of your needs have been successfully met? What are you asking for? And how do you know that you received that assistance that you're looking for? And so we want to just really reiterate that there is a need for a metric moving forward to understand what does success look like in the mentor-protege agreement. So here's just kind of a sample timeline. Month 1, you're creating a profile. Month 2, You're interviewing, selecting companies, deciding who is that best fit, creating a strategic plan for that first period of time through the mentor-protege agreement. You're looking at the SBAs, reviewing your application in months 4 through 6, and then month 7. Good chance you'll get SBA approval on that. At that point, if you have gone to the understanding that you're going to create a joint venture, you can start doing that and then start bidding as a joint venture. It does not have to be a joint venture. It could be a mentor-protege where you simply have the advantage of the expertise and knowledge of the mentor to help you in your business with what you're looking for. So it can last up to 6 years. The mentor-protege relationship renews automatically without notice of continuation or extension. You can stop the mentor-protege agreement, and like we stated before, there's 18 months for an annulment, so to speak, of that. Protege firm must complete its annual evaluation within 30 days of the anniversary date. And again, what you're doing there is it on track? Are you getting what you were looking for as far as that relationship goes? And then all annual evaluations go back through that certified platform where you submit your mentor-protege agreement, and you have to answer all certification agreement questions in that annual evaluation. So here's just a visual of what that actually looks like in the life cycle. And there's your option for the annulment after the within the first 18 months. You can request substituting a mentor for another mentor, and the SBA will vet them for approval. Protege or the mentor may request an amendment to change the content and the information, the partner ownership or business assistance. Protege or mentor may request voluntary termination at any time. Effective date will be 30 days from the submitted request if it's not going well. Okay, so that's going to wrap up then the SBA, All Small Mentor-Protege Program. So what I want to spend some time on here is the Department of Defense specific Mentor-Protege Program. And you will see it is significantly different. The SBA program is not funded. The joint ventures that can form from that are a significant advantage to bidding on contracts. All small businesses are eligible for the mentor-protege agreements. There's no reporting requirements other than your annual looking at the agreement, and you can do more than one agreement at a time. And we're going to find there are significant differences in the Department of Defense. It is congressionally mandated and funded, no longer a program that was not official and a pilot at that time. No joint ventures, socially and economically disadvantaged small businesses, and there are reporting requirements. There is funding available for the protege firm, and there's a post-performance 5-year wellness check. This program, again, was established in 1991, and it was the first operational federal mentor-protege program. But this agency-specific program was designed to grow specifically the defense industrial base, what we refer to as the DIB, where the other is not agency-specific. This one is with the Department of Defense, and you'll see that specifically in finding a mentor. But assisting small businesses and other entities in obtaining, performing, and serving as suppliers under the DoD contracts and subcontracts. And what are the objectives? Positioning your small business for those prime contracting opportunities. This is really the be-all, end-all to get more businesses ready to do prime contracting directly with the DoD. And technical and business assistance to increase the small business's industrial base, competitive markets, and utilization of non-traditional and commercial companies. And fostering the establishment of long-term business relationships with the mentors, enhancing business development and your technology capabilities, increasing the Department of Defense protege programs, technical and business infrastructure capabilities. The Department of Defense is very interested in knowing what new technologies and innovations are out there, and how do they get those in front of the personnel that can look at those and find out how they could benefit the warfighter. And then demonstrating benefits to the warfighter through that technology transfer. These are the departments within the Department of Defense that have Mentor-Protégé programs. So you see the service branches, the Army, Air Force, Navy. DISA, the Defense Information Systems Agency, has one. Defense Contract Management Agency, DCMA. Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, NSA. Defense Logistics Agency, the DoD Joint Robotics Program, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and Special Operations Command. Okay, and so in the case of the DoD, the protege gets delivery of relevant technical assistance from the mentor. They can team with the mentor to win new contracts, building a deeper relationship, being part of the defense industrial base with DoD sponsors and sponsoring agency. Develop long-term relationships with a small disadvantaged business if you're a mentor. Also, if you're a mentor, develop a high-quality subcontracting pool. Again, over $750,000, you have to have subcontractors as part of your contract, small businesses in particular. Build out and expand the vendor database. Team with the protege to win new contracts. Capabilities can be enhanced, resulting in higher quality products and services for their customers. And as the DoD is the sponsoring agency, why would they want to do it? Transition and build out of innovative technologies. Solve challenges critical to national security. Now you've got that team together to do that. Provide technical and non-technical assistance to the protege to expand their procurement readiness. So to be eligible for a mentor-protege agreement with the DoD, you must be eligible basically for federal contract awards. You must be a small business to be a protege, and small businesses must have less than half the size standard corresponding to its primary NAICS code. So the mentor, what do they need? They need to be of good financial health and character to support the protege, cannot be disbarred or suspended from federal contracting. Now, this is an important aspect of it. To be a mentor, you must have DoD contracts totaling at least $25 million in the prior fiscal year. And the DoD will provide and keeps a list of the contractors that have that $25 million bogey. Must be a prime with a current subcontracting plan. So again, that DoD contractors can furnish assistance to the protege to bring those innovative technologies into the defense acquisition programs, resolve operational challenges and other critical national security requirements, develop a more capable small business industrial base and robust supply chain, ensure capacity and capability to support the DoD and other prime and subcontracting requirements, foster the establishment of long-term business relationship. And that's a benefit that benefits the DoD and the defense industrial base. As a mentor, firms can award those subcontracts to the proteges on a non-competitive basis. They're still subject to competition and contracting requirements, but that protege relationship gives you that assurance that they're going to perform well on the prime contractor's contract. Mentors have the capability to provide direct access, assistance, sometimes in the form of advance or progress payments. Okay, so you require the mentor demonstrate the capability if imparting value to a protege firm, which may be demonstrated in this receiving more than $25 million during the previous fiscal year. The type of development assistance a mentor may provide under the DoD MP program. Think about some things like control, manufacturing, test, evaluation, engineering and technical matters such as production inventory control. If you are a protege and those are the things you're looking for to really build your business, those are the things you could look for a mentor to provide to you. And the mentor protege program agreements limit the sources of assistance mentor proteges can obtain, or mentors can obtain for protege firms. Now, they can and they will get reimbursed for the cost of providing these resources to a protege. One of the ways that they can do that is through outsourcing of subject matter expertise. And this is just a list of the opportunities that that mentor can go out for some additional subject matter expertise to provide to the proteges and be reimbursed for the costs. Historically Black colleges and universities, minority institutions of higher education, women business centers, and an inherently DoD unique source, manufacturing innovation institutes. There are 9 public-private partnerships that are designed to address challenges by specifically American manufacturing and innovators in the technology areas. So these are just examples of things that could be reimbursed if that is the kind of expertise that is needed by the protege firm. And the duration of the agreement is not greater than 3 years unless justification is provided. Okay, so again, some of the ways that a mentor can provide assistance to a protege: knowledge-based services. Maybe they need cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is going to be mandatory. And is currently in DoD contracts. And again, this is all about expanding opportunities in the DoD space. So cybersecurity and engineering is very much on top of mind for many of the smaller companies in particular. Testing and software, manufacturing, production items, test, evaluation, and research and development. So what is the incentive out there for mentors? Now, we heard about the incentive for the SBA program, which is a joint venture. In this case, all the things that we already mentioned, in addition to these, one of 3 ways can be part of the agreement with the DoD to sponsor this mentor protege. Credit toward the attainment of applicable subcontracting goals for unreimbursed costs incurred in providing developmental assistance to its protege firms. These credit agreements are administered by DCMA, and we saw they were one of the sponsoring affiliates for the Mentor-Protégé program. Monetary reimbursement for the cost of the developmental assistance incurred by the mentor. So if you're going outside, if you have internal resources that are being allocated to the protege, you can get reimbursed for that monetarily, pursuant to the execution of a separately priced contract line item. It's added to your DoD contract. And then there's a hybrid. So credit, which is non-monetary, monetary reimbursement, or a hybrid where you could do both reimbursement and credit for that agreement. So how do you participate? In this case, you find a mentor from the DoD Mentor-Protégé approved mentor list. Mentor aligns with protege. Again, many of the things we already talked about in understanding is if that's a good fit. Mentor identifies a sponsor, so one of those major buying commands we saw on the list for sponsorship. So you're going to a specific one of those to select. Mentor selects other resource partners. Okay, again, deciding how they're going to be either given credit, reimbursed, or a hybrid method for those resource partners that are required. Mentor works with the protege to finalize the proposal. A former mentor-protege agreement is submitted for approval, and if it's approved, then the contract process starts. So there's a contract. Be eligible for award if you are a mentor of a federal contract. Qualified to provide that assistance that's needed by the protege. You have good financial health yourself and good character, and you're not debarred or suspended. And then the other than small can be waived. A prime contractor with an active subcontracting plan is an 8A graduate with documentation of its ability to serve as a mentor, must complete and submit a mentor application, and there's the web link to be able to go in and provide that mentor application. Okay, and then just for your knowledge, there are other mentor protege programs outside of the SBA and the DoD, that's the Department of Homeland Security, NASA, Department of Defense, Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, and the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. And it is important to note all of these programs have different guidelines, just as we saw the stark difference between the SBA and the DoD. For example, Department of Energy, Argonne Labs, which is located in the Chicago area, one of the Department of Energy affiliates, their Mentor-Protégé program is actually, they will mentor you. So you're not out there finding finding a mentor. The mentor, if you want to work with the Department of Energy, is the Department of Energy to assist you in doing business with them. So just so you know, check if you have a targeted agency, check to see if they have their own Mentor-Protégé program. Okay, so developing and managing a program, accomplish the steps required to apply for and secure approval of a Department of Defense, Homeland Security, any of those agencies that we just looked at or we mentioned previously. And it's between a small business, a diversity supplier, and a national scope, large business, federal contractor, in the defense, intelligence, security, energy, IT, healthcare, all of those services, technologies, manufacturing sectors can be involved in the Mentor-Protégé process. So you do matchmaking, screening and prioritizing. As a small business firm, finding those large primes that you might want to work with. What agency are you targeting that you'd want them to see if they would sponsor you? Is it in general the SBA? Is it one of the DoD agencies? Familiarize the principles of both the firms, mentor and the protege. And again, very specific. What are those agreement steps that you want to have that says the mentor is going to be providing this level of support for the protege? You're going to be mentoring activity plans, developing the training and instructional track as a mentor. How are you going to do this? What does that look like? What are the milestones? Again, talked about the metrics in setting up, what does success look like? And then particularly if you're DoD related, what's your budget? What do those expenditures look like? Internal, external expenditures. During that 3-year Mentor-Protégé program period, what does that look like? Have a needs assessment by that protege, and then that's part of your metrics. Are you meeting those needs? Where's a gap analysis? Can that be done? That gap analysis, what are the things that are going to be helpful for that protege? And then your application package, of course, which is going to vary depending on which sponsoring agency you're going to be going to. How are you going to justify that this moves forward? And then deciding how that activity is going to take place. Getting the agency approval, leveraging marketing based on the new MP program, supporting and leveraging and managing the considerable business development opportunities that come out of that Mentor-Protégé program, which is your joint venture. So setting yourselves up when you get that approved, is that the next step? How quickly do we want to go to the joint venture? Is it an immediate transition? Was it set up to be that way in the beginning? Or is it learning and developing that protege before you go to that next level? Understanding what that's going to look like. Agency reporting and documentation. What is that going to require? A yearly check-in, regular updates to the agency. Periodic reporting is going to be based on what the agency requirements are for tracking the metrics and the accomplishments of the program. Okay, so with that, we'll have some time for questions, but I just want to kind of just encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn and to check our website for all of our upcoming trainings under government contracting. On May the 2nd, we have part 2 of a 3-part series that we repeat regularly. Part 2 in this series is developing your government marketing plan. And it's all important about building relationships with your target agencies and allies. And then on May 13th, we have part 3 of that series, which is now that you've done your market research, which was part 1. Part 2, you're going to set up your strategy on how you're going to develop relationships with those target markets. And part 3 is what are you going to present to them when you do get the opportunity to meet and discuss what you can do for them. And that's a capability statement. So that will be on May 13th. And then another opportunity that is new for the Apex Accelerators, the state of Illinois Apex Accelerators are promoting an opportunity through a training partner, Govology, and that is to have a Procurement Readiness Academy cohort. And that cohort will take you through an extensive 10-week immersion in government contracting, nuts and bolts. It will launch on May 12th with the first session on May 15th. It is a webinar series on demand, and then there is a once a week check-in where you will meet with the Apex Accelerator, go over what you did on your own time in the recorded webinar and clarify understanding and answer questions. And then, of course, access to your Apex Accelerator in your region for any questions, concerns, and follow-up, and then long-term goals of doing government contracting. And so with that, I'm going to turn that over to Jordan to see if we have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. We actually don't have any questions, but I will share. I dropped in the chat the link to our newsletter that went out about the academy that Kelly was just speaking about. So if you wanted to check that out, there's some information there, the dates, the links, things like that. So I went ahead and put that in there. And I think we had a couple people jump on after we had started. I just want to reiterate, you will receive a follow-up email with all of this. So I know that was a lot of information for the hour we had together today. But if you receive the email and review it and have some questions, we can always get you connected directly with Kelly as well.
Absolutely.
All righty.
And I know that was,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Kelly.
I was going to say, I know that was a lot of information. Please feel free to follow up. And if you want to go through anything again, one-on-one, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. We did get a question. It says, do you need to have your BEP before you can ask for a mentor?
So the BEP is a state certification. So that won't be helpful as far as you could set up a mentor on your own. That would not be part of one of the official programs through the BEP. But the All Small Mentor Protege program does not require any certification. If you can find a mentor, you could certainly set that up, and that could be the extent of it, just going through what that mentor can do to support you. And then you wouldn't need a certification, but if you did go to a joint venture, the certification is an incentive for the mentor. So in this case, if you qualify for the BEP, say as a woman-owned small business, getting the SBA certification as a woman-owned small business, the WASB then would allow you and your mentor to be a woman-owned small business to bid on contracts, which likely your mentor would not be. So on the federal side, that would be the way to go. But if you want to find a mentor, you could certainly set that up through the SBA with no certifications whatsoever.
Awesome. Thank you. Alrighty, well, that looks like our only question submitted, so we can go ahead and wrap up today's session. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope to see you at another training event that we host, and thank you so much, Kelly, for taking time to present today.
Certainly. Thanks for all who attended.